Hello, I am Thomas, and today I will be talking to Penny Thoms about her new novel, Seanchai, the Storyteller. We are at the Carnegie Art Centre in Kenmare. Now Penny, this is a wild, sometimes lovely, lightly romantic and sometimes shocking tale. What inspired you to write it?
Well, what came first was the play, A New Year's Tale, which is a monologic play in 3 voices. And I was very fortunate to have the play produced in the United States. And when I heard those 3 voices talking and saw them, and I saw it all come together, and I thought, what is their backstory? What brought them to this place? And I was inspired to write Seanchai, the Storyteller.
Your cast of characters range from wandering storytellers to innocent young girls to a man and woman caught in a love-hate relationship who produce a demonic child. Did these characters spring out of your imagination, or are they based on real people?
So, certainly they weren't based on anybody I knew in Kenmare. Or anybody at Terra Farm, my next door neighbors. Actually, when I was writing my first book, Thin the Veil, I spent a lot of time reading the classics, the Irish classics, fiction, nonfiction. I read about the legends, the stories. I read The Burning of Bridget Cleary and the story of the Carey babies, and the poetry, of course. And after a period of time, I was trusted enough to hear the old ones and their stories, which they told around the fireplaces and in the pubs. And all that became a part of me. It became part of my subconscious, and in a way it became part of my vocabulary, and it came out in the book.
Ah. You've said the story came like automatic writing. Can you tell us what that was like?
A bit scary, actually. As I said, I lived in Maybury Cottage, which had its own very real presence. And it was during Samhain, and in the wee hours, and I heard a voice talking to me, a woman's voice, and she was very assertive, and she wanted me to get up and record what she had to say. And so I took pen and paper, and I wrote down what she said, and she spoke in prose poems, and she spoke 40 stanzas exactly, and then she stopped. And I went back to bed, and about a week later, the husband decided that he had to have his word. And so I woke to his voice and wrote down what he had to say, and he spoke in 40 stanzas, and then he quit, and I went back to bed. And then finally, the last voice, the wife, woke me from my sleeping. And she spoke very slowly, and she was crying. Mm-hmm. And her story was so very, very sad, and I wrote that down. And when her 40 stanzas were over, I knew the play was finished. And I went back to bed.
You've also written another book called Thin the Veil. Can you tell me what that was about?
Yes, I became a hospice chaplain after I was a writer and editor for many years. And when Steve, my husband, brought me to Ireland, I knew that there was a book in it, as they say. And I realized that my patients live between 2 worlds, just like Ireland does, between the old religion and the new religion, between famine and Celtic tiger, between life and death. And in order to fully live, we have to stand in that liminal place that, like a doorway, is very present. And that's what the book is about. It's filled with anecdotes about my patients, some of them bittersweet, some of them funny, really. And it's also about Celtic spirituality, and that's Thin the Veil.
Are you working on anything new?
Just finished a book called Living by the River, which is sort of, I call it the tough version of Thin the Veil, a little more difficult. It's a spiritual memoir. And I look at spirituality as the river, right here, right at our side view. Sometimes it overflows and sometimes it doesn't flow at all, but we have to keep it always present. And that's what that book is about.
Oh. And lastly, will there be a follow-up to Seanchai?
Bridget tells me there will be, so we'll have to wait and see what she has to say.
Thank you very much, Penny Thoms.
This is the book. It's rather large, but this is probably 3/4 of the way in. And picture this. It's dark. And you're alone you're by yourself. And you're a wise woman and you've got a couple of dogs with you because they've been given to you. And you're rocking. And you know that there's something out there, and it's haunting you, and it's haunting the town, and you have to do something about it. Maeve soon nodded off in her rocker in front of her peat fire. When the dogs whined, she woke with a start. The candle was out, and she sensed something beyond the window that wasn't human. She could tell by the tone of their whine that the two collies sensed it too. She told them, "Stay," and lit the candle once again, but it spurted out. She lit a bit of wood from the fire and walked to the door and slowly opened it, ready to face whatever lay beyond. The night was fine, and the stars bright in the cloudless sky, the moon lit her cottage in a gentle white light. She decided that she would keep the makeshift candle lit as long as she could, just in case she might need it. She knew the power of fire, and she knew the thing outside knew its power as well. She waited for whatever would approach her. Something that was no animal stirred beyond the bushes. Maeve, the wise woman, listened carefully. No, this was no hedgehog or fox, no hungry dog come for a nocturnal visit. She smelled it as well as heard it. Its stench was powerful, putrid, and very moist. She could not have described it, but it was a familiar odor. She had sniffed it in the church that day in May. It was now even more powerful, overwhelmingly foul. The gravediggers, no doubt, would know it well. It was a smell well beyond death and well beyond decay. It lasted. "Come to me and show your evil face," she said. Her voice shook slightly, but the words were clear enough. "Show me who you are so I can name you." The smell moved and a cloud went over the moon. Her stick was heating her fingers and she picked up another to kindle, blowing out the first. She did this slowly, not revealing her fear, acting as if she only craved the light source. "Are you afraid to show yourself to an old woman?" The stench grew, and then a shadow emerged from the darkness. It floated in front of the wise woman. Its outline changed, increasing and decreasing, until at last it settled into the form that it would manifest. It resembled the bird shape on the ceiling, but it was clearly more than that. At once it had wings that seemed to flutter, and then it morphed into a great shrouded creature. It was not still. It changed again into what looked to Maeve like her own reflection, and then became the face of a young girl. Its Its power was strong to shape shift so often. Her light flickered and then died. She was left in darkness with the apparition. The thing, at last, was still. A dark, shapeless presence that oozed its vile breath in the still night air. Maeve, we meet again. First time, of course, your dear father was still alive. The words were not spoken, but were heard in the woman's mind. And then recently, didn't we have the pleasure of sharing some holy space at the old church down below? Me, it was, if I recall. You didn't like my little tricks with the Holy Sacrament? How did they taste to your wise woman's mouth? Did they fill your need or leave you hungry? I've never cared for the bread and wine myself. I prefer a larger repast. Oh yes, the incident at Christmas. The young lady never opened her mouth. Sorry you weren't there to see that party. It shape-shifted into the bird and then returned to its previous form. I like those elements no more than you, Maeve said. The thing chuckled. Maeve continued, stronger now, rising to the stronger and strange occasion. I believe we are on the same page as far as the church is concerned, but that is all we have in common. I may not seek the light through Rome, but I seek it nonetheless. There is nothing putrid that emanates from me. I am not filling this pure evening with my stinking breath. The thing shape-shifted several times after Maeve's harsh words, showing off its talents. And can you do this? Flew up to the sky and appeared as a bat, and then an owl swooped down and became a rat with long teeth and red eyes, its mouth breathing fire before returning to a kind of Cape Giant. It was getting cocky, but the smell remained. No, I don't waste my time in changing my body. That is for amateurs to spend time in cunning magicians' games, the fooling of the eye of the common folk. My power is more serious and affects this world as well as what other world lies below. You do not frighten me. Your tricks are simply that. I would have thought you could do more, but you are not the evil one. You are only a henchman. Be gone. Now that I have seen you, I know what I must do. Leave this old woman in peace. I need my rest for the days ahead. Maeve turned towards her door, but before she entered her cottage, she made the sign of the cross, the Bridget's cross of the abbess who came originally from the old religion, a woman as powerful as Maeve of Sligo. There was a bucket of well water by her feet, and she scooped some up in her bare hands and threw it at the thing. This water is holy because it comes from the earth. Water kills fire. She waited until the moon came out from the clouds and she could once again smell the gorse in her fields. She was alone. She went inside to her pallet and slept deeply without dreams.